Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Classroom Hacks review for James Clear's Atomic Habits. Now, if you are new to the Classroom Hacks reviews, we're going to break it down for you here. Our reviews are shorter, but they are very concise and to the point. And basically, what we do here when it comes to reviews is we give you these four criteria that we break down each review with. So first and foremost, we have our synopsis. The synopsis essentially just gives you some background about the book and just some overall knowledge that you need to know in deciding whether or not you would like to read it. From there, we go with what we learned in terms of what we were able to take from this book, some of the themes that might have surfaced and were reoccurring, and then some of the lessons that this book was able to provide for us. From there, we can go to the usage aspect. One of the things that we often like to do as instructors is tell other instructors how they may potentially use this particular book or this particular item or topic in their class and in what ways they can apply it to activities, personal usage, or day-to-day student discussions. And then lastly, our overall rating from the book, what we liked, what we didn't like, and whether we'd recommend going forward and actually reading or listening to the book like I did with an audiobook on Audible or any other way that you like to consume your reading materials. As always, this is Classroom Hacks, where we try to teach you to seriously take teaching not so seriously. So sit back, relax, and if you haven't done so already, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that little notification bell so that you can receive any updates that we put out when new content drops. So here we go, our review for Atomic Habits. So as we begin, the synopsis for Atomic Habits is James Clear kind of gives you his backstory as to how he became a very habitual person and how he sort of studied habits and ultimately kind of made that his life's work. And so from the time he was a baseball player and even when he was training to become a professional baseball player, he learned that he had to sort of devise different ways to keep himself organized and to make sure that he could reach the highest peak and potential that he saw in himself. And the way he did this was he broke down his day-to-day habits into sort of four laws that he puts together to make sure that you can meet your habits, make those sort of expectations manageable, and then make sure that you can continue to develop these habits in a way that is not only beneficial for you, but gives you an opportunity to continue to make these improvements and to stick with these goals throughout your life. And the one thing that sort of Clear likes to highlight throughout his book is that the small things that you do consistently will ultimately build and develop into something life-changing. And one thing he also likes to stress is that when it comes to these habits, it's not just something that you will try to do for a month or a couple of months. These are lifelong sort of changes that you can make in order for you to reach any goals that you want to see throughout an extended amount of time. And as we know, when it comes to New Year's resolutions, which is another reason why we decided Atomic Habits might be a great book to review, is because when it comes to the new year, we all like to sort of start fresh, and we all like to set goals for ourselves, and we all like to try to see those goals through. Unfortunately, if you're like me, I've had many years where these goals did not necessarily, or these objectives that I put out for myself, didn't actually come to fruition. Or if they did, I wasn't able to maintain them for very long. So whether that was trying to maintain a certain weight level, or whether I was trying to complete a certain amount of writing, or whether that was me trying to develop a certain business, some of these things where I'm a great starter, but I don't always have the best habits in order to sort of see those things through. And what was really fascinating about the way that Clear breaks things down is that many of the things he talks about, and if you do read or listen to the Audible version of this book, he is the one who narrates his own work, is that he breaks things down in a way that almost seems so rudimentary or almost so elementary and fundamental that you say to yourselves, it's somewhere in my head, I know these things, but I wasn't able to articulate them in a way to myself that could make them work or make them manageable. Clear makes it perfectly organized for you. He breaks it down. He breaks these things up into four particular laws that he has you follow. And with these laws, he not only gives fantastic examples for the way the laws work, he also then breaks them into their sort of antithesis, or the ways that they won't work. And so he provides with each chapter, he provides an example to sort of start things off. And then from there, he goes and he breaks these things down and develops them in a way that is understandable and is visible. And his illustrations in terms of what he's talking about not only are articulated very well, but he also provides you with direct links to his website where you can see specific examples and you can see these tangible ideas come to life. So it's not just him kind of sprouting those get rich quick or those personal mantras. When you wake up in the morning, be loud enough so that the devil knows you're awake. Whatever those personal things are, or we didn't come this far just to come this far. So a lot of those things are very surface level. James Clear finds a way to sort of break these things down into manageable, realistic goals that you can do for yourself, and he shows you how you can apply them to your day-to-day life. Now, in terms of what we learned here at Classroom Hacks from Atomic Habits, is that it's very easy for individuals to sort of get started with certain ideas. I know myself that when the start of the new year comes in, I'm full of ideas and inspiration, and I'm motivated to do different things. I plan to do 10 different things going forward, and then by the end of the year, I'd be lucky if I was able to accomplish one or two of those things. I think one of the issues that tends to come up is that I put a lot on my plate, and then I realize that it's too much, and then I tend to sort of gravitate towards the things that are more manageable, and then I get down on myself because I feel like I didn't live up to my expectations. What Clear does is he shows you how to manage those things, how to make them realistic, those expectations, and most importantly, the small things you would do on a day-to-day basis. So, for example, one of the things that he does in the beginning of each chapter is he'll provide an anecdote or some sort of backstory to a team or a business or an institution that was running a trial or a test, and they were able to determine a small little significant change that would ultimately lead to some sort of larger foundational change. And so he went from talking about the 1985 Lakers to the British cycling team to his own personal habits that he was able to change and modify on a day-to-day basis. From there, what he does is he'll tell you, so for example, he'll tell you if for some reason you were the type of person who gets distracted by your cell phone, one thing that you want to do, especially if you want to be more productive, is figure out a way to make something unattractive or invisible. He'll tell you to put the phone out of reach, have a friend hold the phone, have someone hide it, have someone disable the apps on there that you would most often use. And then that way, it gives you the opportunity or creates the opportunity for you to only focus on the work that you want to accomplish. And so that's one of those examples that he illustrates extremely well. And so from what we learned, me personally, is that there are a handful of different things that I was already doing that Clear has sort of talked about, things that I picked up in my own life. But what he did was he gave me that extra sort of clarification and sort of additional information that I thought was extremely beneficial, that really sort of helped me get to that next level. So as I said, one of the things that I do is I tend to pile up too many things together at the beginning of the year. One thing I realize is that I pile these things up, but then I don't figure out a way to make them organized. So one of the things that he does is he tells you how to sort of structure a lot of these sort of habits that you have so that they're much more manageable, so that you're not just doing everything in this sort of chaotic order or this sort of arbitrary way. When there's more structure and order to your habits, they're much more doable and much more achievable. The other thing that I really picked up from this book that I thought was just really groundbreaking for me and something that I knew but didn't really click until I really heard Clear articulated was the idea of flow. And flow is that sort of thing that the thing that you're passionate about, that you like doing, that once you're doing it, like everything else around you sort of fades. And for me, that's sort of content creation, editing, just sort of writing and coming up with new ideas. I find that when I'm sort of in that mode, nothing else really matters to me, and time can sort of slip away, and I can accomplish a lot without even realizing the passage of time. And so, what Clear sort of emphasizes is that one way to sort of make habits much more appealing is finding that flow. And when you find that flow, that's something that you should try to manage as well, because just like anything else, if you get too much of a good thing, you can ultimately sort of dilute it or become sick of it. But if you find a way to keep it fresh and keep finding that way to get in the zone of your flow, you become much more, uh, you get a lot more done, and you become a lot more productive at the end of all of it. In terms of usage, how we would apply some of the lessons learned in James Clear's Atomic Habits. I am an English teacher, and one of the projects or major projects that I have my uh, second year composition students work on is a proposal project. I like to emphasize the word project because the traditional way of just only talking about essays, I think, is a bit antiquated. Obviously, essays are always on the table, but I like to give them the opportunity to develop podcasts, videos, websites, PowerPoints, and a variety of different things that they could potentially expand upon and be creative upon. And so when it comes to the proposal, one of the types of proposals that I often give them an opening to is a personal proposal, something that they are very passionate about and that they could apply from their life, that they could tell others how to do, how to accomplish in their lives. And so when you talk about proposals, you're talking about some sort of call to action, what you can do in order to get people to do something. And in the case of the personal proposal, one of the things that students have talked about in my previous classes were time management, being successful at your first year of college, figuring out how to balance work life and college life and professional life and personal life, especially for those students who are older or might be returning students. And so one thing that I would have them do in terms of applying what James Clear talks about is taking the 4 laws that Clear addresses and sort of applying them to their proposal projects and seeing in what way the laws that James Clear's addresses in Atomic Habits, how they could be used and how they could potentially benefit the overall project in terms of whether they're doing something in terms of a personal proposal, meaning the habits that they're forming in their personal lives, are they applicable to other students that might be trying to do the same thing or might be coming from similar circumstances? Could they use it in a parallel proposal? One of the things that examples that I often bring up is the idea of how a CEO or how a general manager from a team like Theo Epstein, the former general manager and president of the Chicago Cubs, took his particular knowledge or his particular way of putting a team together, and he took that from the Boston Red Sox and he applied it to the Chicago Cubs, the longest championship drought in all of sports history. And he said, give me 3 years and I'll show you that I can build a championship team. And essentially, through the habits and building and construction and cultural foundations that he put together for that team, he was able to create a championship team in 2016. And so, can they apply those similar tactics and habitual sort of management skills that Clear talks about, and can they put that into their own projects? In my opinion, I think Clear not only provides an outstanding sort of template for people to use for any sort of project, even their personal ones, he gives you the information in tangible forms on his website. So he consistently references it. There's plenty of information, and he even talks about how he applies a lot of these tactics in business practices. And so I think the parallels there are easily transferable into a classroom. And so that's one of those things I would highly recommend applying, is not just reading his book, but sort of transferring that knowledge that he and wisdom and advice that he provides in various scenarios to the different types of proposals that students may want to put together, especially when proposing changes to a business, changes to a personal element about themselves, or even to some sort of movie or TV show or game that they may watch or play. Lastly, we get to the overall rating for Atomic Habits. If I could give this book a thumbs up, a 5 star, an a 10 out of 10, that's essentially what this book receives. It is a fantastic read. It is concise. It is direct. It is helpful. It is informative. It is a whole bunch of other adjectives that I can't think of at the moment, but James Clear is extremely clear. He's extremely illustrative. He's extremely helpful in giving you different examples, bits of advice. His sections are very well organized. He goes beyond just simple sort of examples, and he shows you, as I always say for my creative writers, he shows opposed to tells, because he not only provides historic examples, he finds a way to sort of transfer those into your own personal life, and he gives examples of people's personal lives that are somewhat universal, from down to losing weight to making small changes so you can be more productive, to doing things that you can have larger sort of personal shifts in your life for lifelong habitual changes. And so Atomic Habits, it's that A+ for that rating, 2 thumbs up, 10 out of 10. A great book for you to start your year, especially for those of you who are trying to build upon and keep to those New Year's resolutions. So, Mr. Clear, thank you for the book. Atomic Habits is definitely a Classroom Hacks recommendation. Thank you for getting this far with the review. Next time, we will be reviewing Tara Westover's Educated, another fantastic read for those educators and beginning of the year readers. It's something that I would highly recommend, and we will get into that on the next time on Classroom Hacks Reviews. Again, if you have not, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification button. Every sort of bit of support we get is helpful, and we truly appreciate it here at Classroom Hacks.